Hey everyone, and welcome to Making Sales Social Live, brought to you by Social Sales Link. I'm Bob Woods, and I'm joined by fellow LinkedIn and social selling pro, Brynne Tillman. Brynne, how you doing today?
How are you? I'm excited to be here, and this is such a fun topic.
This is such a fun topic because for those who are in sales, whether you're a social selling practitioner or not, your LinkedIn profile is foundational for anything you do in your job. Now, that's a strong statement, but it's borne out by this simple analogy. Imagine you have a house and you don't build it with a strong foundation. What's going to happen to the house? Whether it's a slab or whether it's a full basement, that house is going to fall down. In this analogy, your LinkedIn profile is your foundation. It's the foundation for everything that you do on LinkedIn because everything you do on LinkedIn is designed to push people to your profile. So, if you want to attract, teach, and engage your buyers, it's time to convert your profile from a resume to a resource. And before we get started with doing that, let's talk really quick about our ebook. Speaking of resources, it's at socialsaleslink.com/profile checklist, all one word. Socialsaleslink.com/profile checklist. That's a checklist that you can download. You can read it while
Follow
you're listening
along.
to this, or you can do it all alone. You can do it however
Go
you want to.
follow along.
Follow along. Yes, that too.
Follow.
Absolutely.
Yay.
Yay. So
So fun. Yeah. Go
go ahead,
ahead.
Brent.
Okay, well, let's start. I'm very excited because, we've been talking about for over a decade now about converting your profile from a resume to a resource. And that's what we call the value centric profile. And the reason that this is so important if you're in a business development role is if your buyers get to your profile and they show up and it's your resume, they don't care that you are the best negotiator or that you've hit President's Club 3 years in a row. In fact, that could be a deterrent because they're afraid they're going to get sold. So when we create this resource positioned profile, we're actually, rather than telling them how we help them, we're actually going to help them. They're going to experience us right from our profile. And this is why I believe that this is so exciting. And we need to make sure that everyone is positioned well. Just a caveat, if you're in a career seeking role, if you are looking for a job, this is not for you. This is definitely if you are in a business development and sales role. So, Bob, what's
That
our first
yeah.
one?
Actually, just two quick things. One, remember it's not about you, it's about them when it comes to your profile. Number two, oh God, what was I gonna say? I have heard of people who have gotten hired from value centric profiles because they built their profiles in such a way that that the
They
potential employer was
attracted.
very
So,
yeah, it attracted
I would
employers.
say, though, that would be a salesperson who got hired. If
Right.
you are in any other role, you have
That's
to make sure that you are following the job seeking, like what the robots, right, are looking for and all the other
right.
things.
Yeah, that's a
Let's jump in.
totally different.
Let's jump into number one.
Yep, and that's background banner. So with background banners, we're all highly, highly visual creatures. So you need to convey your brand's message through
Mhm.
that background banner. And there are just so many different ways that you could do that. I mean, you can click around to LinkedIn banners all day long and get all kinds of ideas from that because people have just so many way different interpretations of that.
So, what are some things you've seen?
It goes from everything from a simple background of the city that they're in with a logo there to like if they have like a production line, for example, it's like that with the logo. It speaks highly visually to what it is that they do essentially. And because people do so many different things, it's just like it's mind-blowing what you could potentially do with
Yeah,
text.
some of the things that I've seen, which I think are incredible, and we do a little bit of this, is if you have an event that's coming up, you can use that as a billboard, right? This is an opportunity. If you have an ebook that you want people to download, of course, there are other places on your profile that you can link, but this is your billboard, right? And so there's a great opportunity with calls to action for in the right time. So I love that. And I don't switch mine out enough, but when I do, right, when I do, I get like traffic. And remember, your headline, especially if you're in creator mode, I mean your banner is going to follow you. People will see that visual. So also make sure you don't have too many words because it does get small, right? That it's pretty easy to read.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Fabulous. All right, what's the
Fabulous.
next one? Yeah.
Yeah. So, second one is profile picture. Just real quick, before we do that, I have a couple people ask about the web address for the ebook, socialsaleslink.com/profile checklist, all one word. Socialsaleslink.com/profile checklist.
And I keep I will keep putting it back in because I look at chat and then I take out the link.
Yeah, it's a little clumsy on our end sometimes, folks. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So next, let's get to the profile picture. So, the statistics are out there. Members who have a photo on their profile get 21 times more profile views than someone without, and they also get 9 times more connection requests. These aren't percentages. This is like 21 times and 9 times. So you absolutely need to represent yourself with a photo. No doubt about it.
So just a couple of things on this. You may not know what your settings are on your photo. If you go to your public settings on the right-hand side and scroll down, there are times that people have first-degree connections only can see their photo, which is going to really reduce, to Bob's point, the people that are not connected to you, that get you come up in a list and they want to look, they're going to skip over you without that profile photo, even though you have one. So you want to make sure that toggle is on public to all. And then people, even when they're Googling you, your picture can come up. And if you have a common name, that makes it really easy for people to find you as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on to the headline. So the headline, which is now 220 characters. Sometimes people still don't know that. It used to be 120 characters. LinkedIn thankfully expanded it to 220 characters. It's one of the most valuable places in your profile simply because it grabs people's attention, and a properly constructed one should encourage them to start scrolling down and discovering more about who you are and what it is you can do for them in your profile.
Yeah, and really, there's a few things that we want to include. It's a little bit of formulaic, and it doesn't have to be in this order. But if, let me just back out for a second. The goal of this headline is to get people to be curious enough to keep reading, connect enough to keep reading. So let's take a look at kind of the elements that make a headline work for you if you're in sales. Number one, who you help. They need to resonate with it. They need to say, oh, they work with people like me, right? So who you help, how you help them, right? So, for example, it might be like transforming the way sales professionals go to market through LinkedIn and Sales Navigator training. If that were it, right? Who do we help? Sales professionals. How do we help them? We help them, go to market. And how do we do that with LinkedIn? Maybe it's have a competitive edge when they go to market, right? But so you want it to be compelling enough. And then how do we do that? Through LinkedIn and social selling training. You can, if you have enough, space, because you are limited to the 220, you can talk about what you do. We can say membership, e-learning, profile development, right? If you have enough there. So who you help, how you help them, the result, you could even add the results you bring, right? So, and what you do. So take a look at your profile and make sure that that headline is working for you.
Yep. Next
Woo!
next item on the agenda is the about section. This is another huge one. This is 2,600 characters of just absolute gold that you could use. This is where you really start proving that you are the person who can solve their problems, but you're not doing it in a salesy way. You're doing it by bringing value, by teaching them rather than, saying, "Here's how we can help them."
Yeah. So, often we think the about section is our passion, our mission, our years in business. We can push that down into our experience.
Mhm.
That's where that goes. So we talk about this being value centric. To Bob's point, like this is that opportunity right here to do that. So what goes into a successful about section? Number one, you need to resonate with them and do that in a way that gets them continuing that curiosity, right? So that first line is something that, what is the challenge to your buyers, right? So talk about that in a line or two about what your buyers are facing right now, because now they're going to go, they get me. Oh my gosh. Like that's exactly where I am, or that's exactly my problem, right? And then and then after that, give them some vendor agnostic insights. That means it's not how you fix that challenge, it's what they need to do to fix that challenge, right? And they go, "Ooh, I need that. Ooh, I want that." And that's how we earn the right to then ask for a conversation. And actually we can have a line or two after we've provided them value in, what, success looks like. And then a call to action. If you're exploring more efficient ways to do X, let's chat. Whether or not we decide to work together, I'm confident a call will bring insights and value, on X topic. You can email me, or here's a link to schedule 15 minutes, something like that. At the end of the day, they get to experience you. And if you do a really good job on challenge and insights, you're going to earn the right to get those conversations.
100%. 100%. Next is what we call the scroll stopper. And this is because it's a very visual section, but yet it's a great way to provide that value added educational material. And a lot of people don't even know that this section exists. So whenever I'm doing LinkedIn profiles and I set one up for them, people are just amazed that this is even there, and they don't even realize it. It's the featured section. So with the featured section, you can put so many visual types of things in there that have an accompanying graphic for it. And what this happens is it builds, as you put in more items, it builds kind of sort of like a carousel right in the middle of your profile. So with that information, we call it a scroll stopper because we because people will just naturally stop to see this stuff because like I said, it's graphical content. Imagine if you're scrolling down a page, it has a bunch of text, and there's graphics all of a sudden that pop up. You stop to read them. It's pretty simple. So with this information, it's got to be educational, though, in design. It can't be your latest sales sheet on something, because people are going to feel like that they're being sold. You have to have educational content there.
Bring me back. There
Uh-huh.
we go. I got lost for a minute, but I found my way back. Yeah, that featured section is so important. And I agree. It does need to be educational. Look at it as ebooks, videos, and you can connect your posts. If you have a post that's doing exceptionally well, highlight that there. You'll continue to bring traffic to that. And look at this as it's not a permanent, rotate it out, put out what's most useful. Just do the litmus test. Is this piece promoting me, or is it bringing value? If it's bringing value, it belongs in the featured section.
That's a great way to put it. That's a great way to put it. The next section that we're talking about is the experience section. So again, this is a little different. This is slightly different from what most people do, but yet it will show your experience. But it doesn't have to be, like the typical list of responsibilities. You can talk about how you help your clients. What value do you bring to your clients? How you make a difference in their lives, in their professional lives, whatever it is you do. And that's like the quintessential part of a really, really good profile section, because you do that with your current position.
Yeah, absolutely. And so your experience, let's think about the experience of your reader. What do they care about? Your story. Why, especially if you're an entrepreneur, they want to know, why are you where you are? But even if you are in a sales role, why did you pick this company? Why did you pick, to work here? And that's a big deal, right? Like, that's where people will connect with you. Why does this industry matter to you? We often work with financial professionals, bankers, right? They could have gone to any bank in the whole world. Why this one? Right?
Mhm.
They could have chosen any sales role. I mean, a commercial banker, in a sense, you're in service, but sales. Why did you choose this? And why is this your career path? Is it the impact you're making on your community, right? You want to touch a little bit of those heartstrings in the experience, which is, again, pretty different than a resume, right? It's really about them experiencing you and getting to know you a little bit.
Absolutely. The next, we're going to talk about a little hack, and I do firmly and totally put hack in air quotes. You're not really hacking anything. Don't worry about that. The experience hack. So, sometimes people use this feature within LinkedIn that lets them show the progression that they've made within a company. If they start in the proverbial mailroom, then they become an assistant salesperson, sales manager, VP of sales. They can chart that throughout within one position within LinkedIn. We've hacked, again, air quotes, hacked that idea so that you can um, proudly display your deliverables or solutions that you provide. So this is where you get to say, hey, here's what I sell, essentially. And if it's just one thing, that's fine. If you sell one thing into different types of verticals, you can actually list the verticals there. If you have
Mhm.
several different products or solutions, you can go ahead and just list those down there as well. It's a really great way to take advantage of something that was meant for something a little different, but yet bring it over to what it is you do, so that you obviously have to talk about what you sell at some point, right? So this is the place where you can actually do that.
Right, in the experience. There is another place that's new that we didn't talk about also, which is the providing services is the
Right.
only other place, right? Where which there are two that we'll talk about that at the end, because there's two bonuses. I think providing services is one of them. But I agree with you so much, Bob. This is such a great opportunity to highlight your deliverables, what your solutions are. And I would still soften it with,
Mhm.
definitely talk about that solution. This is an opportunity for telling folks how you can help them and what they could buy from you, but also talk about the value of it, right? Look at this piece as like a marketing page, right? Where you're talking about what people are getting from this. And I may even recommend getting a quote at the bottom of each of those deliverables from one of your testimonials or recommendations on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's true. And I tell you, we're going to go out of order just a little bit, really quick, and talk about recommendations, because that's actually a big piece as well. So you want to be not only giving testimonials, but obviously you want to be receiving them as well. So basically it just involves reaching out to people, having a conversation, and and then either, depending on what you want to do, either asking for the recommendation, or giving someone a
Mhm.
recommendation. I mean, both, either way is great. People do look at recommendations, and one thing about recommendations, Brynne, is that it gives you social proof that you can actually do what it is that you do.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And when people are vetting you, that's a really good place for you to shine, right? When they look at, they go, oh, if 19 people say he's really good at this, he must be. It can also help reduce the sales cycle. I can't tell you how many times I've had larger corporations say, all right, we're ready to go, but we need to speak with 3 people first that have used you. And that can like just elongate that sales process in such an ugly way. But if you say, hey, great, happy to do that, go look at my LinkedIn recommendations. If there's anyone you'd like an introduction to, let me know and I'll make that happen. And if you have enough recommendations, they don't need to talk with them. They know that they'll say the same thing. So I think that's really important. And Bob, you touched on something that is so vital and you went right by it. I'm going to come back
Let's
because
come back to it.
yeah, giving other people recommendations. Like that's a brilliant thing, Bob. It really is. Why do we want to do that? Well, of course, we want to give, right? If someone does something really well, if they're our vendor, it's the right thing to do. However, what if we recommended our clients? Now you might say, well, why would I do that? But let's say Bob is my client and he is a great student, the best I've ever had. And everything that we've done has been great and successful for him. And I write him a recommendation. And I say, Bob, you are a joy to work with. I love our coaching. I love, right, like all these things. And I'm so glad that we've been able to get you from here to here and you just soared. So I make him look good at how fast he learns and how brilliant he is and creative and all those things. But I also now have real estate on his profile. So when people are looking at him, they'll see that he worked with me. So it's a double win.
Yep. And then in that ebook, we also talk about, I'm just going to let y'all read about the importance of education, skills, and actually on how to get symbols into your profile too, to get all of those. And of course, everything else that we've talked about, socialsaleslink.com/profile checklist, Brynne.
I have 2 bonuses.
Two
One
bonuses.
we touched on, which was providing
Yeah. Profile.
services.
Yes.
This is relatively new, and this is a big deal. People can actually ask for quotes from you. So that's
Right.
at the top of the folds in a little gray box. You want to make sure you check that out. And the other thing is the 30-second profile video.
Yes.
That when folks get to your profile, you have 30 seconds to connect with them as a human being. So make sure you're leveraging that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go ahead and we're going to bring this one in, folks. So thank you again for joining us on Making Sales Social Live. If you're with us live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter right now, we do this every week. So keep an eye out for our live sessions. If you're listening to us on our podcast, go ahead and hit that subscribe or follow button so that you'll see when the new ones drop and you can have access to our older ones. Socialsaleslink.com/podcast is where you can get information on all of the podcasts and podcasting that we do. We do 2 shows weekly. We do this one and our Making Sales Social interview series, where we talk with leaders and experts in sales, marketing, business, and many more areas. And we're actually getting into the many more part of many more areas too, with some shows coming up. So definitely keep an eye out for those. So when you are out and about, make your sales
Social.
Thank you, everyone.